Hey, how are you doing today, tonight, this morning, this afternoon, whatever time it is your time? I'm doing pretty good. I've been playing around with my little mini Slayer setup, and I found that when I stick in one of these jobs, I get some pretty good results. It's a Sylvania cool white. And I got a hell of a deal today out of all these tubes for $10. Liquidation. They're basically gonna throw them out. They're trying to sell them for 25 cents each, and I offered them $10 for the whole works, and that was that. So got a nice little start on the mini greenhouse is what I'm thinking, and I'm playing around with these different circuits. I don't think this particular driver I got is going to be what I ultimately use. Looking at Jonnydavro's Simple Sec 3, thinking about using I got a whole schwack of these what would you call them, disposable camera drivers. Got about 30 of these things, so I'm going to start playing around with those circuits. But I thought this was pretty cool. I mean, this runs this guy, and the interesting thing that I found about it is that right now, I don't know if this is going to show up on the camera, but I'm running 96 milliamps at about 6.6 volts. So that's, pretty good. Although I will say this little 3904, I think it is, she's a toaster, so it probably wouldn't be a real longevity thing. But it's for 6 volts, under 100 milliamps, it's pretty good. I'll shut off all the lights, and you can see that it's actually doing pretty darn good. I could actually read now with this light, and with the video camera, it's always going to make things look a little darker than it really is. It's actually not that bad. There's no problem seeing anything in this room. It's brighter than a nightlight. Let's just put it that way. An awesome tent setup, and the tower is only not even 3 inches tall, not even inch and a half in diameter by 2 3/4 inches probably. So it's very tiny, very small setup. It'll run the other little guys too, and I think it'll even attempt to see. Some of these are they're different ratings too, like daylight, bright white, that sort of thing. Warm white, bright white, daylight, cool white. So I was trying to find something that was really, that the name was, as bright. It's sort of, I don't know, honestly I don't know the difference between cool and warm, which one would be brighter, but this daylight sounds like kind of a bright name. That's not bad either. It's hard for me to tell. It might be easier actually when I watch the video later to see what in fact gives you more apparent lumens. I'd say it's pretty close to the same. It's drawing 93 milliamps now, and that's a nice little configuration there. It might even drive to, I don't know, of the smaller ones. Gotta share the juice. Oh, I see. That's a different. Okay, that's a different one. That's a warm. So it's a different light. Attempt to run both at the same time. It does. You can see there's some banding where it's not quite firing, but it's a pretty good light. I'd say it's all about the same, although that has dropped down to 90 milliamps. But I'm pretty impressed with this little tower, I gotta say. I gotta hand it to you there, Ryan. It's, you know, you kept telling me, oh no, a little tower, it'll fire fluorescence, no problem. And, you know, at 6 volts it will. So, maybe at 1.5 volt it won't, but, you know, at 6 it will. And it's quite likely that if you had one of those little Jewel Thief cell phone chargers, step up to 5.5, I'll bet you it would go. Anyways, just playing around. Oh, I had one more other thing I was going to say. I'll turn some lights on here in the darkness now again. Pulse motors. I had a little idea. I thought I'd run it by some of you guys. You can get these things in liquidation real cheap. And I had a concept. I'm going to call it the Fisherman's Friend, if I can find it here. What did I do with it? Well, these are the bottoms. They're not actually what I'll be using. I bought a few of them. It's just so you know what I'm talking about. This is the box. It's a swivel base stand. I bought them for $2 each. $2 or $3 each. They have a maximum load capacity of 100 kilograms, so they're made to have a big heavy CRT on them. They're just a simple thing. They're plastic. Now they have all these little ball bearings on the one side, and it's actually the other side that's of interest to me because it doesn't have these studded stands. And when I say that, I mean the lid. I've got 2 or 3 lids lying around. Now here's the concept. Imagine one of these without all those little ball bearings on there, because the lids have nothing in the way of those little nipples and ball bearings. Okay, imagine having these 2 lids sandwiching your magnets. I'm talking about Bedini style pulse motor here, okay? So these magnets, and on the other one, I wish I had them because it has a nice little groove. These magnets would sit like so, okay? There's a center hole with a nylon bolt. So the magnets would sit in there like that, okay? And the nylon bolt would go through the center of this. I might even add a reinforcement collar, the right length of PVC pipe inside there, just to stiffen the whole works up. The nylon bolt would come out, okay? Now my idea is, this is where I call this the Fisherman's Friend. Alright, it's the cheap suspended Bedini motor concept. You have a nylon bolt coming up. Alright, now in that end of that nylon bolt, or if you could just get a really nice long bolt, 2 concepts. First one's a Fisherman's Friend concept, wherein you have a swivel for fishing, an ocean swivel, which you hit with silicone lubricant so that it's nice and easy to turn. That's suspended from anything, really. You know, in my case, suspended from this wood up here. Whatever, it's suspended, so it just swivels on the Fisherman's swivel, which is why I call it the Fisherman's Bedini. And now I was thinking of taking that concept even further when I do have the right stuff, in that you would have your post coming up through your pulse motor assembly like this, okay? And the nice thing about this thing is that I can take these magnets and go about 3 thick, if that makes sense, you know, so that I've got all the depth here. Unlike a bike rim, I can just keep going back as thick as I want. I read something that Rick said that he had the best luck with 3 and not so much luck with 4, I think. But anyways, let's say I went 3 thick. So in the case of this, I have 15, or I have, see, they have these little markers here too, which kind of keeps you in check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those 6. Those would be my 6 locations of magnets, and then they'd be 3 thick. They'd all be sandwiched together. You got your nylon bolts holding it through, okay, and then it all sits, and then it sits flat like a turntable and spins on this Fisherman's swivel, if you will. Or if you could find a longer bolt, say something about this long, you could put a housing for a steel ball bearing. That would be fixed, so the whole works would be fixed with that steel ball bearing. Then above that you would have a neodymium, which would also be, could be a bar magnet. Okay, didn't have to be round. The neodymium would be holding a steel ball bearing. Okay, and then the steel ball bearing, through a very powerful neodymium magnet, the magnetism will travel right through the steel ball, and then you got another steel ball which is anchored to your shaft, so the whole thing is spinning just at the point of one contact, capable of correction in, you know, many different degrees and angles. So as it starts to spin, it can settle out. Gravity will settle out and balance the motor. So that's my Fisherman friend Bedini motor rotor concept. Anyway, thanks for listening. You guys are all inspiring. Thank you very much. Bye bye.